Well, after that applause, can I go? Now, quite rightly, Dennis has said that the so-called Iron Lady is rusting away underground somewhere, and we're still here. But not only are we still here, we've been proved to be right. We were called liars. Arthur was defamed, insulted, the most piled on man this country's ever seen. And everything he predicted, everything he said would happen, has come true with bells on. He must have been a better clairvoyant than Mystic May. And for that, they told us he were lying. I only wish we'd had the lottery in them days. He could have given us the number and we could be living in a tax exile somewhere. But I've not come here to talk to you so much about what happened during that fateful year. Like me, you lived it. I want us to look at the things I've hinted at already. Everything, as Arthur said, everything as we fought for has come true. Look at the state of this country now. Food banks. We've got more food banks than outlets of McDonald's. I suppose the only positive from that is they're getting better snap than they'd get in McDonald's. We've got people sleeping homeless on our streets. We've got poverty such as never been seen since the 1970s. And that's as a direct consequence of what happened when we were sold out, betrayed. Never forget, we were so close to winning. We were sold out by Norman Willis of the TUC. We were sold out by that bastard Neil Kinnock. I have to spit when I say that name. And had that happened, who knows how different this country might have been. We wouldn't have had food banks. We wouldn't have had homelessness. We wouldn't have had the poverty. When we said it wasn't a fight about us, it was a fight for the whole working class. And ever since then, it's been attack upon attack, not just by Tory governments, but New Labour. And if we'd won, we wouldn't have had that bastard Tony Blair. And he wouldn't have slaughtered 1 million people in Iraq. And now, we're still paying the price of that year. Successive governments, yes, both New Labour and Tory have nicked our pensions. That pension money that should be in your pockets, my pockets, and helping being spent in our communities has flowed uphill. It's gone to the rich. It's been stashed away in tax havens. And worst of all, it's buying bombs to drop on Gaza and on Ukraine and to arm Ukraine in a needless war against Russia. That's all can be traced back to us. Add to that the fact that we've turned into one of the most totalitarian countries in Europe. Anti-trade union laws. People who march for peace, who don't want to see tens of thousands of women and children slaughtered by US and UK bombs in Gaza, are called hate marchers. And I suppose the sort of speeches you're going to hear tonight would be classified by this lot as hate speeches. Well, it's true. I hate the political elite. I hate the scabs. And I hate the state of this country. Dennis has mentioned some of the injuries that were inflicted on decent people around here. I was a victim myself. I'm not going to ponder too large on that, but I need some advice. I was arrested at Cresswell Colliery, April the 9th. A copper took a shine to the back of my head and proceeded to smash it in. I was thrown into a police wagon where a compassionate police sergeant told me, expletive deleted, they were going to let me bleed to death. That was our wonderful boys in blue. When I appeared in court 6 months later, having already been charged with threatening behaviour, threatening a police truncheon with the back of my head, 2 minutes before I appeared in court, I was given a second summons. Watching and besetting. Remember that one? It predates trade unionism even. It means looking at. So I know in the labour movement we need eyes in the back of my head, but I'm guilty of threatening a police truncheon and looking at it with the back of my head. In response, Derbyshire NUM took out 3 private summonses against the Chief Constable of Nottinghamshire, the Chief Constable of Derbyshire, and the copper that did me. I'll not mention his name, but if you ever bump into a PC Moss on Blackpool Promenade, give him my regards. I've scoured Blackpool for 40 years looking for him. But those private summonses, fell when I was found guilty by a stipendiary magistrate. Remember them? Retired judges, because Thatcher had instructed the courts to speed up our convictions. Not speed up fair trials, speed up our convictions. Now in 2018, and this is what I need advice on, if there's any sharp-nosed lawyers in here, I thought I'm going to get my criminal convictions lifted because I've become a model citizen. What are you laughing at? So I sent off a Freedom of Information request to Derbyshire Constabulary and to the National Criminal Records thing. I got 2 nice letters back. Derbyshire Police even sent me my tenner back that you have to pay for a Freedom of Information request. And do you know why? They both said, there's no record of me ever being arrested. Well, tell me how I end up with 2 criminal convictions that incidentally have stopped me getting a visa to visit friends I made in the strike in the US. How do I end up with 2 criminal records and no record of an arrest? How do I clear my name when I'm just going round in circles? Answers on a postage stamp, please. And we all know that's only a little bit of what happened to us. 7,000 of us were hospitalised or needed emergency treatment for injuries sustained. So you don't need me to dwell on that. But I want to tell another little story about how justice was administered. On February the 1st, 1985, my late brother, who was branch delegate at Island Colliery in Derbyshire, was in Honda's fish and chip shop in Claycross. 2 scabs and a local thug came up behind him and chain whipped him. He had to be rushed to hospital and surgeons fought to save his right eye. When I went down to the police station to see what they were going to do, another very nice copper said, "We're doing note. You're effing getting what's coming to you." So it just happened that a friend of mine was the chair of Derbyshire Police Committee. It just so happened that he happened to be a striking miner. So I ended up sat in the Chief Constable's office, who I'd previously summoned. He didn't seem to hold a grudge against me. And he promised he'd take these off the street, and he did. They were arrested and charged with actual bodily harm. Do you know what happened when they came to court? They got a 200 quid fine because the judge wanted to heal the rifts in mining communities. British justice, the same sort of British justice that today keeps Julian Assange, who's only guilty of telling the truth, in prison. That's what we're up against. Now, I've not got long, but I'm going to make a confession. But it must not go outside this room, else I'll deny it. It's not a major confession. I'm not a serial killer who's not been caught. Although when it comes to scabs, I think I could have made an interesting career move. My confession is, I'm jealous of you Yorkshire miners. Now I know it's usually the other way. You were jealous of us Derbyshire miners because we were better looking and more sophisticated. Obviously. But I'm jealous because on March the 5th, 1985, when we all marched back with our heads held high, with dignity, undefeated after a year of unimaginable brutality and everything that Thatcher's government had thrown at us, when I saw images of thousands and thousands of Yorkshire miners walking back into the pits, talking about you'd had half a dozen scabs, 20 scabs if it were a scab pit. At Markham, 80% of our pit was back to work by the end of the strike. There are about 400 of us left to march. And when we got to work, I found out that the 80% weren't scabs. They'd given themselves names. Drifters and tricklers. Now, I don't know who trickled and who drifted, but I'll tell you something. If you worked on the first day of the strike and you went back to work on the last day of the strike, you were a scab, a scab, a scab, a scab. And it don't wash off. It's stamped through them like Blackpool is through Blackpool Rock. So we've never got to forgive and we've never got to forget. But I'm going to start winding up because I know I'm only the warm-up act for these two great people. We fought like nobody in this country has ever fought before. But it's not just enough to look back with a sense of pride and honour. Comrades, we've got to continue fighting. Because I mentioned the mess this country's in and how it could be so different. We have got to educate a new class of activists, the strikers who are finally waking up from 40 years of slumber and starting to fight back. We've got to tell them a one-day strike here and there, online petitions, candlelit vigils. Jesus Christ, what have we come to? That's not the way to win. You win by making a principled stand and not stepping back. And for that, I'm honoured and proud to have shared that with you. You're all heroes, Long may you hold your heads in pride, and let's make sure we continue that fight, not just to get our pensions back, not just to get justice for all grieved, but let's continue that fight for the world we could have had, a decent world that doesn't send coppers to kill innocent pickets, that doesn't drop bombs on women and children, that doesn't starve people even if they're in work. That's a decent society, and we've got to fight for that. And so, comrades, continue the fight, and next time, make sure that we win. Solidarity.